21st century America can be stressful. Work, inflation, politics, family, the kids, schedules. However, a new survey reveals that Americans may finally be getting the message that taking intentional moments of laziness isn't always a negative. Joining us to talk about this survey and give some insight is Dr. Sue Varma, psychiatrist and author of Practical Optimism, the art, science, and practice of exceptional well-being. Dr. Varma, thank you so very much for joining us today. So tell us about some of the most interesting findings from this survey.
Yes, so the Harris Poll survey that was commissioned by Lazy Boy for National Lazy Day found that 9 in 10 people consider moments of laziness as self-care. And I thought this was so fascinating because I know at the same time people feel super guilty. So 2/3 of people feel really guilty that they have to like earn their moments of laziness, but then 9 out of 10 of us know that it's a form of self-care. So it's fascinating that there's this little bit of a disconnect, but we are moving towards the idea that we must make it a part of our life. And there's a saying that I love. It says, if we don't take care of our wellness, it will become our illness. So in my mind, I'm all about prevention. And to me, like laziness really is self-care and it's part of health.
So why do we feel so guilty when we do nothing at all then?
You know, we've all kind of been like, I want to say conditioned to some level, whether it's society, whether it's upbringing, that like you always have to be working. And I get it. Like I see what's happening, like with social media, and all of us are trying to like live up to some expectation, but it's kind of sad because they're like these arbitrary kind of benchmarks of success. And I feel like we're always chasing, and it's almost like a moving target. So we have to be aware that a lot of this is self-imposed, it's arbitrary, we're conditioned, and we kind of got to like decondition this way of thinking.
Well, so how can we shift our mindset to see laziness as a beneficial practice?
So we have to be very intentional about laziness as being self-care. And what that looks like to me is a person deliberately carving out time and space in their schedule and saying, I am going to carve out intentional laziness, which is not avoidance, it's not procrastination, it's saying, I'm doing this for my health, and creating what I call a Zen den in your home. So a safe space that's kind of like an oasis away from the rest of the world. It could be a recliner, a lazy boy recliner, for example. It could be a yoga mat. It could be a throw pillow. I mean, there's any number of ways that you can create relaxation in your home, but the intentionality is key. And so you have to kind of make every lazy moment count.
You know, I actually have one of those spaces in my house. It's called the garage. I've turned it into a music studio and like a little living room. That's my place. I tell my wife when it's time to check out, I go, the day is won. And I go out to the garage and have like a little bit of time to myself. So I get what you're talking about. And I can speak firsthand that it is pretty beneficial. So, but what are the benefits, of not going 100 miles an hour every day all the time?
Totally. So there's so many benefits. Like, and I love that you do that. And and the fact that you also mentioned music and sort of adding creativity, because that's really a part of this. Like laziness can be unplugging, but it could also be like what I call flow moments when you're like experiencing something that like you just kind of lose track of time. It could be like playing music, it could be gardening, it could be any number of things. For me, it's writing, speaking sometimes. Dancing, but the benefits are from head to toe. Anxiety decreases, depression decreases, your heart rate decreases, the chances of elevated blood pressure decreases, inflammation in the body decreases. So think of this as like the easiest way to invest in your health. Like no one's telling you like, go run a marathon, which you can, but this is like easy and it's simple and it's free and it's convenient. And I'm like, okay, so movement has its own place in terms of benefits of exercise, but equally rest has its own place. And we're so conditioned to think that we have to be doing something for our health. And the reality is that people who take 20-minute naps a day live longer than those who don't. So there is benefit of intentionally doing nothing.
So let's talk about self-compassion. What are some of the benefits?
Yeah. So when people think of self-compassion, they're like, I don't know what that is. Like, it sounds nice, but is it like this kind of woo-woo thinking? And it's not. It actually has a lot of scientific benefits. Self-compassion says, I have worth simply because I exist. I don't have to like earn my rest. I don't have to deserve my rest. And I'm human. And human beings are beings, right? They're not human doers. And so it says, I have the right to take a break, to rest and recharge, and that I can make mistakes, right? That I'm flawed, and that's okay, because I think so much of our thinking is about perfectionism and always doing and looking outside for answers. And self-compassion says, no, I'm good. I'm good the way I am. And I love that.
I like that too. I think sometimes we forget that just our mere existence is magical in its own right. And so we can take some, we can grab some confidence from that, right? We can hang out and chill for just a second. We don't always have to be trying to achieve some goal or anything. Just being a human being is enough sometimes. So I really appreciate your time this morning. This has been a very great conversation. Where can I send our viewers to get some more information?
Thanks. So please send them to the nearest Lazy Boy retailer, or they can visit lazyboy.com. They can pick up a copy of Practical Optimism, but really carving out that intentional time and space.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate your time here today. And guys, if you want to catch this segment again, head over to FCN Plus.